that fellow at the table there with you, he's like, okay, I'll be part of your story, right? Like he doesn't even know the next chapter, but he knows he needs to be a part of that next chapter with you.
Mm-hmm. And there's one thing I would add to that, because you just said it so well, like animated. You know, when I think a lot of people struggle when they're learning to build a home-based business or any business, I don't care what you're going into, because they're so afraid of getting it wrong and they're so afraid of looking stupid. So they won't infuse the passion. They won't take a solid stand. They won't, you know, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And so we have to take a, actually Eric and Marina Wore in Eric's book, Go Pro, he says you have to be willing to suffer a temporary loss of social esteem.
Yeah.
And that because all the people around you are used to you being you how you are. So now you're changing. They are not going to like it, because it means A, either they have to change to match you, or B, they're going to get left behind. And those options are both very uncomfortable.
Yeah, both very uncomfortable.
Right? So you have to be willing to like put your stamp on something. And I'll tell you what, when it comes down to it, if you're representing a company, if you're representing, I don't care if you're an affiliate marketer online, I don't care if you're a network marketer, I don't care if you sell Mercedes or Pintos, I don't care what you sell. If you are working for a company, you had better be willing to talk about that with passion, because if not, you're not doing your job and you should get fired and you shouldn't make any money. That's straight up. If I was hiring you as an employee, if I was a CEO of a company and you were representing my blue cup, and you took my blue cup out in the marketplace and you're like, you know, Timothy, I think you might like my blue cup. You should try it, but the yellow cup might be just as good. And I don't want to put you in a position where you feel pressured to buy my blue cup. It's like, listen, Timothy, this is the best blue cup you've ever seen. When you hold it, it's going to feel solid. It's going to keep your drink cold. When you drink from it, it feels like luxury passing by your lips. I don't care if it's water in the cup. You got to drink water all day long, keep that butt skinny. You're going to love this blue cup. You've got to be willing to step into whatever you're doing with passion. And if you don't do that, you don't deserve to make money, straight up. So, you know, for the people that are just getting started, they want to have it all right and cross their T's and dot their I's and have all the information, especially the educated people with degrees. They want to make sure that they have everything perfect. But listen, it's not your perfect. It's not the facts. Facts tell. Stories sell. You got to be able to take that product, I don't care if you fully understand it or not, and I don't care if you even fully believe it or not. If you signed up with that company and you chose to represent it, you better represent it with excellence. Seriously, excellence. And that's what's going to end up propelling you forward. And even if you start in one place, maybe you start as an affiliate marketer for the blue cup, and then you move to a yellow rose. Well, that's okay. It's just a stepping stone. And sometimes people count that as failure. It's not failure. It's the first step on your ladder. And you're going to make some changes and you're going to get better and you're going to grow and you're going to fail. You're going to fail. Most of the time, you're going to fail. But if you just keep going one foot in front of the other, get a little bit better each and every time, and learn to talk with passion from your gut and from your heart, the world will move for you. Like literally, people, we've been in restaurants, right? We've been sitting in restaurants having dinner, like just him and I having like a dinner date night, and people will come over to us and say, what do you guys do? They don't ask us, who are you? They'll literally say, what do you guys do? Like, can I do it? Like, it's crazy, right? It's like, the first time it happened, we were like, awkward. But it's because
you wouldn't believe me if I told you.
Right? But it's because we try to infuse our passion into everything we do and not be shy and not be worried about what people think of us. And are they going to like my outfit, my lipstick, my hair, my car, my business, my whatever? Who cares what they think? If they're not going to pay your you know, what do you call this? Mortgage, bills, debt, whatever, you know, shouldn't have an opinion. And if you're going to buy somebody's opinion, buy their lifestyle. So be careful who you're talking to, because you'll end up with their lifestyle if you're going to think the way they think.
Yeah. What more could be said about that? So couples, I mean, you guys obviously, just observing you, listening to you, the dance that you dance as a couple gives many clues to other couples. What additional advice would you offer to couples who are building together?
Date night definitely is, it's very important. I can tell it's just like study time in the morning. You know, I can tell on a personal level, if I go a few days without reviewing my goals or reading something inspirational in the morning or putting something good in, I turn into a not a nice person. And so our marriage is the same thing. I know when we go several weeks without a date night, where it's without the kids, without business, without anything, where we just sit down, have a great dinner, you know, take a few hours conversation, maybe even sometimes it can be a planning meeting too, but it's just you and your spouse, so that you can come into agreement and just have some time together. The marriage is a lot fresher and nicer, and not you know, just like I become not a nice person, the marriage becomes not a nice marriage if we don't spend the time. It's an investment. It's work. And, you know, you got to put the time in, you got to put the energy in, you got to put the investment in. And she's phenomenal at it. I mean, her number one priority, one of her top priorities is our marriage, you know? And it's one of the things that I'll say I'm working on. Just, you know, and I know what it's from. It's the way I grew up and what I saw a marriage was and wasn't. And, you know, so it's something, but she grew up in a home where it was the most important thing. Family was very, very important, and I didn't, you know, so it's a new idea. I understand that family is extremely important and marriage is very important. I understand it mentally, but when the rubber meets the road, based on my past experience, you know, where I grew up and the family I grew up, it's a different idea. It's a different way of thinking. And so it's something anyways. So that's been really great for me. I can notice there's a big change in our marriage, in our work life together, and the way that we treat our kids, the way that we plan our weeks and everything when we actually spend that time and have a date night.
And I think there's two things I would say. Number one is fighting. You're going to fight. If you don't fight, you're probably not having good sex. I would try a fight. But you got to be willing to have disagreements and still come back to the table with respect and honor. And it's difficult. And it's hard if you know something needs to go one way and it's going another way. That's tricky to then navigate it to where you know it needs to go. So for us, you know, we always keep God first and center. So the reason for that is because I can go in prayer and say, okay, like I just release this idea. If it's supposed to be that way, then he'll receive that idea and I don't have to try and force it. However, I am a bit of a sledgehammer. So we are constantly fighting and making up, which is awesome. And I think when couples stop the making up part, that's when they get into trouble. So don't go to bed angry. Don't try it. I'm a walk awayer. I'll walk away and I don't want to talk about it anymore. He always says, don't walk away. So, you know, don't walk away unless you're going to punch each other in the face, then walk away and then come back to the table. But sorry. But I think the other thing too is that as couples, we have to really look at what each other's strengths are and really try and honor that, because what he's good at, I'm not good at, and what I'm good at, he's not good at. And there's common things that we have that we can do equally as well. But we've gotten into trouble when I've tried to be him and he's tried to be me. Or worse, I try to make him do it my way and he tries to make me do it his way. So, is
there any other way?
Right. And then I think the last thing is for ladies specifically, you know, there's a lot of women that start their careers first. This is a common thread in especially online life, especially social media, etc. The women start and the men try and catch up. That happens a lot. In our case, he started and I had to catch up. But what I want to say to the ladies is that you are most likely going to have more faith or vision than your counterpart. And that's because we're born like that. Women are born, like imagine women, we have to just think about the pregnancy. Think about, you know, you've got a baby inside of you. You don't know what that means. You don't know what it means for your future. They're like clueless for 9 months until the thing's crying on his lap. He's like, oh my God, we have a baby, you know, but you've carried that baby for 9 months, and that, you know, you've in your mind, you've built how you're going to raise that kid and what you're going to, and hopefully, you know, I'm not saying guys don't do that. I'm just saying that women are wired to do that. So I think that we have to be the heartbeat and the encourager onto bigger things. You know, and I want for Greg to build an empire and he wants that too, but I have to constantly be forging that vision or that picture and casting it in front of us. And then that allows him to step out and maybe do things that he maybe wouldn't try otherwise. Does that make sense?
I think she's trying to say is, and I'll say this, I guess, to the women, just from a man's perspective, I know when my wife speaks life over me, when she prays over me, I'm ready to go conquer the world. In the mornings where she speaks life over me, and what she says, cast the vision, and reminds me sometimes of, you know, what we're working for and working towards. I don't know, it does something inside of my spirit where I feel absolutely unshakable, unbreakable. I guess it goes back to, you know, the medieval days. I could run out with a sword and shield and slay dragons, you know what I mean? But then there's also days where we'll get in a fight in the morning and she's not speaking life over me, and it makes me want to give up completely. Like, I have nothing to fight for. So I think one of the things I would encourage, you know, wives or couples, you know, on here is that speak life over your partner. You know what I mean? Breathe life into them and their ideas, and watch them conquer the world.
I mean, I'm speechless at that, Greg, and as well, Melanie, how you guys wove that together, and so beautiful to speak life, breathe life over the other. And it emphasizes what I usually draw upon of the words, right? Together we overcome. There's an ability that we have united that goes so far beyond the mathematics of 1 + 1, as you said earlier, that until we experience it, we really don't even realize how powerful we can be united.
Amen.
Yeah. Wow, guys, thank you. Any last words? I mean, there are additional questions. I hope at some point in the future we might pick this up and see where you guys are going next, because that's the question I want to ask now. But I think I'll wait. I mean, it's like, what's next for you guys at the level of success you're at now? And I know there is something next. Should we touch on that now, or would you rather we would pick that up further down the road in the future?
What would you like to do, honey?
We could do a short little thing. I would say for me where I'm at, only because it's funny that you would ask that question. Literally, that's where we're at. We've started a new endeavor, and we're very excited about it. We're very excited about the global opportunity. It's e-commerce. It's very exciting, like crazy exciting, almost so exciting that it is overwhelming. And so we're at a stage where I'm going to be really, personally, my job right now, I want to go and do something I've never done before. Really, truly, it's a very, very big goal. And that's get 1,000 new people started in 1 year. So it's a very big, dominant goal. We're going to do that together. But then also for me right now, it's branding us all over social media. And that's a big task because it takes time and I'm busy. And the third thing I know that we've been talking a lot about, and actually maybe we could touch on this, is this is a big thing, that in the past we've created a lot of success, but we didn't put a team in place to manage that success. We try to do it ourselves. And because we've never had the example, right? No one's ever taught us how to put a team in place. And so at the places where we could have like literally skyrocketed into a completely another stratosphere, we actually ended up causing ourselves to pull back because we didn't put the necessary team in place. And that's something we've been talking a lot about this week, like literally in the last couple of days at walking our dog and trying to figure out, you know, what are the next steps for us. You know, we need to have a full-time assistant. I need to have a full-time house person because we have a big house and I like things very clean and very well put together. And our kids obviously are busy and they help out, but I'm talking like food prep. Greg's a bodybuilder. And although he's not in training this year, he still eats and trains like an athlete. And so that's almost a full-time job in itself. So I think, one of the things that we'll be focusing on together is putting that team together, which is very challenging because it means you're going to be spending money in ways that you haven't spent it before. And it can feel like a waste, especially with this guy who's like, well, we can do that ourselves. But because I've been in business before this, I know that if we're doing everything ourselves, we're not good. We can only go so far. We can only go so far. It's a ceiling, right? So I don't know, anything you want to add to that? Yeah, I mean, what's next is
this is just on a personal level. And we were talking about this last night, but obviously it's going to affect the marriage and the business and everything is, and I think it kind of dovetails into what she was saying, but I know in my life, and I witness it everywhere in my life. You know, there's that saying of how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I was just like, man, you know, so in our previous endeavor, we got to a level of success where we were the #2 earners in Canada, one of the largest businesses in that entire company globally. And then, you know, it got there and then it started to retreat a bit. And then I'm looking, she's talking about being a bodybuilder. I was just witnessing, you know, just in my, you know, my body, you know what I mean? It's like, so I worked so hard to get to this place for this show that I did last year. And then I backed off a little bit, and then it's like I lost everything, and it just keeps. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you don't use it, you lose it. And somewhere in my mind, in my poverty mentality still, I have this idea of if I get there, it's going to stay there, and I'm not going to have to still work for it. And so what's next for me is greatness. And I know how hard I had to work to get to where I am now in the last 10 years. Since I've been in business, the personal growth that I've had to go through, the professional growth I've had to go through, and I know how hard it was. And it scares the living crap out of me to think of, because I know where I want to go. And I know the things that I need to do, and it scares me because I know how hard it was to get here. And I've been toying with the idea for the last year, almost the last year, of, is it going to be worth it? Is it worth it? You know what I mean? And then I don't want to push my faith on anybody, but I'm always reminded of the scripture of, you know, his yoke is easy and his burden is light, and to take a 180-degree turn. And that's scary to me. I don't know why it is. And I think it is to everybody. You know, we think it's going to be hard because we have to, you know, pick up our cross and die to ourselves so that we can actually have what he has for us, because it's so much more than what we think we can have. And Melanie just asked me a question last night, and she said, well, I think, she goes, tell me if this is true, but she says, was it so hard these last 10 years because you were doing it all yourself? And I don't know why, but that was like a bullet between the eyes. And she's absolutely right. I've made some very big changes in my life. I've taken in different areas of my life, in business, in our finances, and you know, my personal life, and bodybuilding and parenting, all of it. You know what I mean? And it was freaking hard. But I look back now, and I did it all in my own strength. And some, you know, as far as I want greatness, bottom line is I understand that, you know, as the days go by here, I was just reading one of Grant Cardone's books, 10X, and he's talking about, you know, if you're going to live to, I can't remember if you're 37 now and you're going to live till you're 75, you only have, and don't quote me on this number, but I think he said 1,590 Wednesdays left. You only have 1,590 Wednesdays left. And how many more of those are you willing to waste being mediocre? You know what I mean? So anyways, what's next for me is greatness and doing a 180-degree turn. And I know that the results are going to show up in every area of life, but I'm scared. So what's next is the unknown, the fear of the unknown. And, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say to, I don't know if this is making sense to anybody out there, but, you know, it's the things that, you know, the things we're afraid of, we tend to avoid and push off and procrastinate. And so what's next is kicking procrastination's ass, I guess. But I'm going after greatness. I'm going after greatness.
Yeah. And you know, I mean, you made it very clear in what you described there. You know the source of it, right? You know what socket to plug into for your greatness to shine through you.
Yeah. So I guess what's next is getting closer to him.
And you can't build anything without faith. It's not even just faith in God or faith in whatever, you know, you're believing in. It's literally faith. You can't build anything without faith that people are going to join you, without faith that he's going to love me. If I am unwilling to have faith in him that he'll stay true to me until the end of our lives, then how will our marriage survive? If I don't have faith that as I take the necessary actions daily that my business will build, then I won't take the actions. Faith is the basis. It's the fuel. It's the fire. It's everything. It's the building blocks. And that faith, you know, and I see this all the time, people, what they do is they do what he said in their own strength. And you can only do what you can do. And whatever results you currently have, it's because of what you've been doing. And it doesn't require any faith because you don't have to change or go for anything bigger or learn a new skill or anything. But when you step out, you know, last year or 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I launched an online coaching business, and it was in pure faith. I had no idea how to build a funnel, how to do any of it. I had no idea, you guys. I had no idea. I made $100,000 or $120,000 my first year. Well, it cost me, I don't know what, like $5,000 to do that, but tons of my time and my focus. So, but I didn't know if it was going to work, but I had faith that I could figure it out. Well, that's since grown. So I guess my point is that we have to have faith in everything that we do. And the more faith that we can muster up, the better it is. And for those of you out there that think you're too broken, too far gone, made too many mistakes, listen to me right now. You have been tested and your character has been tried. And you have been broken for a reason. And the more faith you are willing to put in, your shame and guilt is not from your higher being. It's not from God. It's not from, it is just not necessary. If you're hanging on to that, it's because you're hanging on to it, period. And you can choose to let go of that at any moment. You can change. And when you decide that you are free, because at the end of the day, I'll never forget, I was a single mom. Okay, I ended up in a woman's shelter with no money, no car, no place to live, and a baby on my hip, okay, a year old. And I had two choices. I could do what the world had for me, which was going to be poverty and nothingness, or I could change. And I chose to change. And I fought and I clawed and I worked. I went to school. I worked crazy hours. It was nuts. And then I found myself in this little basement suite with my daughter, having no clue how I was going to do this with somebody that was not supporting. Trust me, I was drug into court. I had no lawyer, no money for a lawyer, and I was drug into court with trying to take my baby away from me every 4 months. Okay, it was horrible, it was horrifying, and I was devastated. And I remember sitting at the table, and I was pretty brand new to like having actually a faith or thinking there was a God that loved me or any of that. And I was sitting at the table, and there was a refugee camp on TV. Oprah was featuring a refugee camp, and it was playing in the background. And I remember sitting down and sincerely praying, Lord, free those people. And they were smiling and in the refugee camp, and it was a Christian ministry. That's what it was. It was a ministry. And I remember him whispering back to me, you don't understand, they're already free. Yes. They're already free. They might be trapped in a refugee camp. They may have their bodies broken, but their spirits are free. They're in love and they're free. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. And from then on, because you guys, I suffered all kinds of abuse in my childhood, untold abuse that I'll write a book one day. But all of that shame and guilt and all the things that people get stuck in, you know, in that moment, I really felt like God was saying, you can be free at any moment that you choose. And free in here. When you're free in here, remember Martin Luther King's poem, who are you not to be smart, beautiful, powerful, and beyond anything? As a matter of fact, when you set yourself free, when you let your light shine, your presence automatically liberates others. And that's our job as human beings. It's to become liberated, to become free in who we are, and to love not only ourselves, but the people around us. And when we do that, then we can literally live in a faith that's so tangible, it will build things right in front of you. You have no idea how many times things have showed up in my life at the exact moment I needed them. Like we're talking, he used to call me a witch. He's like, how is that even possible that just happened? Because that's how I live my life. That's what I believe. When I need something, it will appear. When I want something, it will show up. Why? Because I'm faithful in the little things. Therefore, I will be given much. And so you guys step out in faith, whatever that faith is. You know, if I can encourage anyone into their dreams, anybody to pick up something bigger for their lives. And the more you give back, the more you will receive. And you won't, you know, people always talk about, you know, how greedy is too greedy and how much is too much. And even with Donald Trump, you know, whether you like his politics or don't like his politics, I just read his book, The Art of the Deal. mind blowing. The guy was doing $25 million deals when he had no money, when he was 23 years old in a city he didn't know anybody in. Why? Because he had faith. He had faith. He had faith in himself, faith in the possibility, faith in the opportunity, and he acted towards it.
And willing to risk.
And willing to risk. And you know, you guys, at the end of the day, the bigger the prize, the bigger the price. So don't be surprised that you're going to require, it's going to require more faith to go to that next level. So, you know, really, like at the end of the day, you know, what's next for us? What's next for you? What's next for anybody listening? What's next in your lives? What do you guys want it to look like? And if you only have 1,500 Wednesdays left, what are you going to do with them? Who are you going to inspire? Whose lives are you going to impact? What are you going to do? Are you going to be the person that's born on a day and dies in a day and the story in between isn't worth repeating? Wow. I hope not, because I remember reading one day, you know, our gift from God is our life. Our gift back is what we do with it.
Yeah. Yeah. We can request, we can pray, we can ask, and we don't actually receive what we ask, do we? We receive an opportunity to receive it.
Oh my God.
So good.
I used to pray for patience.
And then he got me.
And then I got her and 2 teenage daughters, and I didn't realize that God wasn't gonna give me patience. He just gave me opportunities to develop it.
Right? It does work that way, doesn't it?
But how many times does that door open for people? It cracks open and they see the possibility, and that little thing that Greg was talking about, that little bit of hope that, you know, it pops up its head, and then all of a sudden they allow their fear, their conditioning, they shut it down, and then you know, a few years later it pops up again, and it pops up again, and it pops up again. They get to the end of their days, and that thing has never been allowed to be released, and there's nothing worse than regret at the end of the day.
One of my mentors used to always say to me, he goes, you know, Greg, if you stop listening to that still small voice in the back of your mind, eventually it'll stop talking to you. So make sure you're listening to that still small voice.
Hope deferred makes the heart grow sick. We have to, as human beings, step up and do something bigger with our lives. And when we do, we get stronger and bolder and more courageous, and people's lives are changed. And, you know, one of the things that I would say, like even what you're doing with this show, being able to reach out to people and encourage couples along the way. Listen, marriage is under attack. It is under attack every day, every way. You know, it doesn't matter, you know, his hockey buddies are wanting him to go to, you know, have drinks and beers, and they're flirting with girls in pubs, and he's a married man and he's got to maintain that integrity. And he does. And it's under attack every day. It's under attack
in the movies,
everywhere. It doesn't matter where we go, and all we hear about is divorce and fighting, and you know, it's just, we have to, you know, again, you know, what you're doing is changing people's lives, and because you're doing that, you're going to get back 1,000-fold what you're putting out there. I mean, that's really what it's all about at the end of the day, isn't it? And I bet it took faith to step out, even start this show, and to do those things. And you know, we have an opportunity as human beings to truly change lives, and you never know the ripple effect. I remember 2-3 weeks ago, we got a message from a girl who's 26 now, and she's 19 when she started with us in our opportunity. She said, I remember sitting in trainings and I was so timid and so shy and so afraid of everything. I was afraid of my own shadow. I couldn't talk to people. I wasn't a business person, etc. And then she said, after sitting in the training, although I'm not involved with you guys anymore, and although I'm not involved with the opportunity, it changed my life. I now own my own business. I'm an entrepreneur, and I would love for you to come down and frequent my business so I can show you what you helped me create. That's what it's all about. And we all have the opportunity to do that. We all have the opportunity to encourage and inspire and lead people towards their fullest potential.
Guys, that's a fantastic end note. I mean, you've just brought it full circle. You reminded each of us who we are. I'm sitting over here with like goosebumps, you know, from head to toe in what you've shared. It's profound. It's greatness, Greg. It's greatness. Definitely greatness. And it inspires each of us toward our own as well. Like you said, what's next is a question. Really, it's not an answer. It's a question. Now, what is next for you who's listening to on the podcast or watching this now? You have to answer that question for yourself, because we've asked it. We've created the opportunity for you to receive whatever you will fill in the blank. Oh, so good. Any last quick add-ins you guys want to throw in?
Thank you so much for the opportunity to take part in your show.
We appreciate it. We're going to share it around and get it out there. And I think that the more we can inspire couples, the stronger we can make marriages, the stronger we make our communities. And it's a very worthwhile and noble pursuit. And when we can focus on worthwhile, noble pursuits, it truly does change the world. So thank you for that.
Greg and Melody, thank you. Thank you so much. And for now, I hope we touch in again sometime soon in the future, because I want to stay a part of your stories and the greatness that you guys are exemplifying. But for now, from Norway, I'll be saying bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.